everyone, and welcome to today's OLDN edition. I am your anchor, Blessing Dolo, streaming live from OLDN studios. With me today is Dr. Cornel, streaming all the way from South Africa. Hello, Doctor, and welcome to today's edition. How are you?
Morning. Thank you, Blessing. Thank you to everybody that's listening to us. I'm very well. We seem to be having a bit of a sunshine day in South Africa, which is very welcome. So thanks for having me and thanks for the opportunity.
I'm pleasured. I'm honored, actually. So without any further say ado, could you kindly tell us a brief information about yourself, who you are, a brief rundown of your career and your membership in the OLDN family?
Thanks, Blessings. Well, I've been involved in HR and HR-related activities and strategy, transformation, etc. for the past more than 30 years. I've been in both the private and the public sector in the Department of Defense and in Department of Transport, and in the private sector, mostly involved in the mining sector, where I either worked as an HR practitioner or a strategic manager, and I've also been consulting. Of late, I've been working for myself, and I've been a part-time lecturer and a supervisor for postgraduate students. And I've also been doing some consulting on performance management and strategic design. In terms of the OLDN, I recently, if I can call it recently, became formally part of this exceptionally well-managed and well-purposed organization in the sense of joining through Dr. Justine. And I'm looking forward to all the endeavors that we're going to be doing going forward.
Great. Thank you very much. So today, this is the second question which I'm about to read to you. I actually had drafted a lot of questions for you, but because of your time, and I understand you're a very busy person, so I cut out just a very few questions, and hopefully we'll be able to tackle everyone before the session is over. So the second question is, today, several government institutions are being accused of massive corruption and overriding executive powers. How is corporate governance accountable for good governance in public sector?
Well, in terms of your question, let me start by stating, in my opinion, all organizations, whether they are private or public, should always aim to meet the highest standards of governance. For example, there should not only be sound governance, but it must also be seen to be sound. Now, what do I mean by that statement? One of the key pillars of economic development is a clear indication of a healthy economy and good corporate governance. And given the financial crisis is now currently not just in my region, but I think both regionally and globally, the boundaries of accountability and responsibility are rapidly expanding. There's a lot of challenges in terms of authority to consider the public and its agenda, and I think more so than ever before, because of the public scrutiny of everything that is happening with regards to the use of resources, how accountable our public sector is in terms of these resources, and how they are improving service delivery and managing it. And all of this is because we as citizens want to improve our quality of living, and we are to a large degree dependent on the government to do that. So effective governance, in my opinion, is essential for building confidence in our public sector entities, which is in itself necessary because they need to be effective in managing their own objectives. In terms of good governance then, this starts from a recognition that state entities are operated for the benefits of others, not for their own benefits. Remember, they are there to provide services and goods to the good of the public with an obligation of accountability. This means they must have proper governance frameworks which provide accountability mechanisms as well as open communications for us as the public to be able to communicate what we like and what we don't like. At the end of the day, good governance will allow good management, good stewardship of public wealth, good public engagement, as I said, through this open channels of communication, and ultimately better outcomes for us as citizens and for those that are the users of public services.
Great, thank you so much for that enlightenment. All right, so the next question is, one of the trending challenges in West Africa of recent, including the current crisis in Mali, is violation of the rules of law. In delivering and enriching OD practice at national level, what is the relationship between corporate governance and the rules of law? Pardon me, yeah,
Thanks.
the rules of law.
Yes, the rule of law, that's right. So, good governance on the one hand and the rule of law on the other side are both essentials, preconditions for peace and stability. Because without this, societies cannot function, let alone flourish. If we don't have good governance, as we've just discussed, but it is also not supported by solid foundations of a rule of law, we will not be able to survive and grow as communities. Good governance and the commitment to transparency and accountability promotes the rule of law over corruption. And I'm sure everybody at this point in time is very familiar with the levels to which corruption can actually ruin or destroy a community or ruin and destroy a whole country's economy. The commitment, as I said, to transparency and accountability is inherent to good governance. And this promotes the rule of law over things like corruption, etc., to allow the many benefits of other development initiatives and economic inputs to reach those in society who needs these things the most. So businesses, when they are doing business, they need stability. They need to know what is predictable in the countries. And this is provided by the foundation of rule of law. It basically puts down the roots, the rules of the game, to make sure that everybody can participate in the economy, to stimulate growth, and to provide economic opportunities for everybody. You must remember the rule of law and legal certainties are the foundation of stable economies and their underlying markets and other formal and informal economic transactions. They must be accessible and clear to all, and they cannot, as I've already said, tolerate any form of corruption. There's no such thing as a little bit of corruption is tolerable. If you steal, you steal. There's no limit that less than a certain amount is not viewed as corruption. If it's a cousin from you 5 times removed, it's still not corruption. The rules must be very clear and very consistent. There cannot be any exceptions because otherwise we will not get to the basics of good governance, which is transparency, which is accountability, and which is fairness. So systems must be transparent to encourage a diversity of voices, excuse me, enabling our people to assess the effectiveness of leaders and provide feedback if our leaders are not delivering on these benefits. And very importantly, in the last instance, in terms of this question, competition should be promoted, as I said, by evening the playing fields. And procurement policies should prohibit any form of unfair discrimination. There shouldn't be preferential treatment if it's on an unfair basis in the granting of any contracts, etc. And all of this must be overseen by a very independent and efficient judicial system, including the availability of things like dispute resolution mechanisms, etc., to address things where people feel they've been wronged so that they can address it through an effective mechanism.
Well, thank you so much once again for another insightful outbreak. So the next question is, recently OLDN announced its South Africa takeoff with the focus of impacting individuals, families, community, and corporation. Any specific initiatives aimed at ensuring the voice of OLDN is well pronounced in SA, that's South Africa?
Thank you. And this lies very close to my heart. In my view, the savor of our country, and I'm sure the rest of Africa, I was watching a wonderful presentation a couple of days ago, which I also shared with members of OLDN about Africa rising. In my view, the saving grace of our continent will not be necessarily with large corporations or international entities. The saving will come from community-based organizations at grassroots level. In South African society, community-based organizations have historically played a crucial role in uplifting communities that were previously marginalized or excluded from economic participation due to our previous regime and the apartheid's governance, etc. So they have historically played a crucial role in transforming power relations and also in addressing community needs. Now, at present, we have a little bit more than 100,000 so-called non-profit organizations in South Africa, of which more than half of them are community-based or voluntary associations. which means that they are not very structured, they're not very strategically focused, they are actually there to take care of the needs of the community from within the community. As I said, they are small, mostly informal, they've been mostly initiated by local residents, and they are based in the communities where they serve. They're often membership based, so they have people that voluntarily join them, because remember, they're not for profit. So they don't necessarily try and make money to sustain themselves. They are reliant on contributions from others to provide to communities. And herein lies what I would perceive, if I looked at your question, what I would advise for us as OLDN community, where an opportunity lies. There are existing interventions that have been involved in OD development of community-based organizations. One such is called Community Connections. Now, this is an organization which is based in Philippi, which is in Cape Town, at the southern part of South Africa. The organization is committed to capacity building in terms of enablement, transformation, justice, and collectivism. They help organizations to fulfill their missions and to position themselves better in the developmental sector. But they're only, as I said, based in Philippi. Now, I think our opportunity lies in partnering with organizations such as these, or providing services similar to this on a broader perspective, to enable community-based organizations, specifically from an organizational development perspective, to make sure that they are strategically focused, that their structures are lean and mean and can address their outcomes, and that they actually have the capacity to deliver on the services that they want to provide to the community. Because in doing so, this will drive aspects such as local community development, job creation, income generation, wealth improvement, etc., etc. I can carry on. But this is my interpretation of where I think one of the areas that OLDN in South Africa specifically can play a vital role in the development of community-based organizations.
Oh, great. Indeed, we have something we call back in West Africa, powerhouse. Indeed, you are a powerhouse. All right. The last question, because I don't want to keep you a lot. During the August OLDN International Conference, you mentioned 5 forward-looking practice OD practitioners must align with. Would you like to reiterate for the benefit of global practitioners, executives, and other key decision makers, and how the practice can be adopted in the public sectors?
Okay, thank you. If I may, can I share this? Can I share my slide?
Oh, okay. Just a moment.
Fine. I'm going to try.
Mm-hmm.
You must just allow me to, otherwise.
Okay, just a moment. All right, you could try sharing now.
Okay. All right. There you go. Is the slide visible?
Yep, it is perfectly visible.
Okay, so this is the slide. During the OLDN conference we had earlier this year, I was asked a question in terms of what do I think are the future roles that an OD practitioner can play. So this slide is basically what my answer was in terms of what I perceive to be futuristic organizational design careers, but it also fits perfectly, or it relates to what you've been asking me. So these 5 forward-looking practices, I must be very honest, I actually adopted them from a very good colleague of mine called Dr. Charles Cotter, who is an expert in specifically learning and development, but mostly in the HR strategic environment. So these 5 potential roles comes from his model on future roles of strategic HR management. So he's got 9, but for purposes of OD, I adopted 5 of them. So I've taken some of his views and adapted that to organizational development or design based on my own experience over the past 30 years. And also now more recently on the 90-degree turn that our globe has taken, our country or our continent, or even international spheres have taken globally. So what it aims to do is to drive a shift in the mindset of OD practitioners or HR practitioners in a whole, to focus on quality of services which needs to be targeted. Now, remember your question was about the public sector. And I've already emphasized in other questions that the public sector needs to remember that they are there to serve the public. not their own pockets, not their families, not whoever else. They are there to serve the public. So the focus should be on how do we serve the public? How do we lie a foundation in our overall strategy, which is based on integrity, transparency, effectiveness, and efficient use of resources. Now, if you then look at these 5 roles, the first one, which talks to future proofing of the organization, which the role would be from a talent management perspective,
Okay.
says that talent management in the public sector is vital. We need to have good people in the organization, wherever, at local level, at national level, etc. These people need to be suitably qualified, they need to be competent, and they must be able to attract and develop talent going through. The public sector must be the absolute perfect place for people to work and develop themselves going forward. They cannot be underqualified, unfortunately, my view. Secondly, if we look about making sure we can deliver on service, we need to future-proof the organization by developing a culture and real-time predictive analytics. So this is more in terms of HR future-looking performance management, but this must be based on a system that has accurate data. In the past, and I'm sure a lot of the people listening will agree with me, performance management has always been viewed as a subjective issue. If my boss likes me, I get good results. But people normally remember the last thing that you've done wrong, and there goes your bonus. So we need to be able to do this based on predictive intelligence, which means we must have clear definitions of how we measure accountability. We must be transparent on how we report, and we must also use appropriate policies and standards. So it's not a question of we make it up as we go along. It must be clearly defined. What is good practice? What is good performance? What is underperformance? What is excellent performance? And this must be available to everybody. The third one, and this one is extremely important from an OD perspective. There's a saying, and I'm sure everybody is familiar with that one, that says structure follows strategy. You cannot design your strategy around this people in the structure, because then you will be only trying to work with those people, and you're not going to do what we set out to do, which is to deliver on service. So you need to be able to future-proof the organization by developing a high-performance culture and a high level of engagement. And this you do by clear organizational structures, clear lines of reporting, how the processes work, who's responsible for who, as well as good oversight with examples, internal audit committees, risk committees, regular monitoring and reporting on progress, etc. So that becomes extremely important. The fourth one is where we look at what the role is, what we call it, an innovative solutions architect. So this, as we would normally call it, is where you work in HR strategic planning. But in effect, it talks about mainstreaming human resource management, or then OD in this case, into core business processes, which means we're not supposed to be reactive. We are supposed to be offering business solutions to key organizational problems. So that means we need to properly define our strategy and our purpose, including clear citizens and services quality of service measures. When will we know that we are delivering the level of service that the community wants? Only if we ask them. So we must have that clear intention of determining exactly what it is that they would want from us, and make sure that our performance indicators are aligned to the service delivery demands of the society. And then lastly, and this is what we started our discussion today with, was on the whole issue of governance. We must make sure that we have a good human resource management governance framework. So in the past, this would have been somebody that works on HR matrices, compliance management, etc. The futuristic role that I see in the public sector specifically is an advocate, a custodian, and a steward of governance and ethics, which means that you have to be focusing on the lines of what you can call the lines of defense. Like in soccer, you have to have this line of defense that you keep active the whole time to prevent the opposition from coming through. Ensuring compliance with applicable laws, such as equity laws or labor laws and things like that. Regulations, we must have strong internal controls, and we must make sure that we guard our information very securely. That is another thing. Remember, in service delivery, we work with public information, which is very confidential in certain instances. So security of information also becomes extremely important.
Wow, 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 wow. That's amazing. Wow, doctor, that's amazing. It's mind blowing how you really handle things. That's amazing, doctor. This is actually a personal question. You have books you've written? And if yes, how can these books be accessed?
No, unfortunately, I haven't written books like a couple of my OLDN colleagues already have done. The only
Okay.
real books that I've written that I'm proud of is my master's degree and my PhD.
Oh, great.
But I am actually planning on taking my learning and development manuals and combining them into a book. So you are again inspiring me. One of our colleagues reminded me the other day that I need to start writing a book. So I'm planning on doing so, but no books at this point.
Okay, great. Would you mind if the viewers weren't to follow you on social media, probably on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook? You have a page for
More than
that?
welcome. They're
All
more
right.
than welcome. They can also
Okay.
follow me on LinkedIn.
Okay. Link.
I really like using LinkedIn as my business profile.
Oh, great. So your address on LinkedIn is?
Oh, you're asking me a difficult question. They can just Google or they can just go on LinkedIn and look for Dr. Cornel Malan. I think I'm the only one on the planet, so it shouldn't be that difficult. It should be Cornel.Malan on
Oh,
LinkedIn.
great. I'm just inquisitive with all these explanations you've given. I'm just so inquisitive. And it goes through my mind. I've been thinking about it. Do you plan on being a president someday? You plan on
Oh,
running in
no.
for presidential elections?
No. I did study political science to start off with, and my qualifications are mostly in public governance and in labor law. But I think I'll be more suited to be an academic. I actually plan on retiring as Professor Malan. I don't think I'll go into politics. It's way too challenging, and there's too much politics in politics, really, in my view.
That's it. Too much politics in politics. Doctor, indeed, you're a powerhouse, and I am so thrilled. I'm not sure you know this, but I'm your super #1 fan. I always tell Doctor about you. Like after listening to you during the conference, I went to Doctor. I'm like, who's she? And he told me like, how can I get in touch with her? He said LinkedIn. So I went through LinkedIn and I saw a couple of pictures. I don't know which exactly, so I connected to all three. And I got in touch with you via WhatsApp. I think you shared the number during your presentation.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I was able to get them like, no, she's a powerhouse. Doctor, indeed, I am really honored to have you here. And hopefully when I visit South Africa sometime, I'll dash by to steal some knowledge from you.
Well,
I'll
more than
be able.
welcome. Please make sure that when you come this way, let me know. You are based in, where are you based? In
I'm
UAE?
in United Arab Emirates.
Yes. I don't travel there very often, but if I do go that way, I will also return the favor and give you a call and we can have a bit of a coffee or a tea. It sounds
Oh,
wonderful.
all right, that'll be an honor. That'll be an honor. Thank you once again, Doctor, for joining us. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and stay tuned for the next edition. Once again, if you're watching us on YouTube, please make sure you hit the subscribe button and the bell for the notification. So whenever we upload a video, you're the very first to watch this video. And if you're watching us on Facebook, please make sure you follow us on Facebook and on any other social media platform, be it on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, or whatsoever. And if you're watching this on a status or on a device that does not have a link, please visit www.centraold.com. Once again, I am your anchor, Blessing Dolo, and stay tuned in for the next edition. Thank you, Doctor, and see you some other time. Bye.
So much blessing. Thank you. Bye-bye.